So whenever something like a new cell phone comes out, there's always the inevitable bugs that kind of you got to work through firmware updates before things are just really, really smooth. And one of the things I've found that is a bug with the Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra is that there is just the slightest bug running through the camera system. For one, when I'm using the camera system at times, like right now, my lips are not timed to the video. So there's a little bit of a delay. For two, whenever I shoot a video with it, everything seems to be really blown out, like it's not really picking up and adjusting to the white balance or the brightness of the environment to give me a really clean video. And I've come home to videos that look absolutely horrible. So I thought to myself, like, how do I handle that situation with my regular cameras and my drones? And that is the use of something like this, an ND filter. And, I don't know why I didn't think about this earlier, but I went on Amazon, I'm an Amazon junkie, and I looked for clip-on ND filters, and I found one. So this is a clip-on ND filter. This is a variable from 2 to 400. It's super windy out here right now, so I'm gonna probably have to fight with the wind. But I wanted to see if there was truly a difference using this ND filter using the cell phone, and kind of figuring out whether or not the cell phone is going to be able to understand that it's being filtered and adjust correctly, or whether or not there's no value in this at all. Now, this wasn't expensive at all. This was about $15. Like I said, shit, Amazon, you look around, you're going to find something for the price point you want. This variable ND filter by itself was probably going to run you 30 if you try to find it, just go do a quick variable ND filter search. But I found the whole rig. It comes with this. It comes with a lens cap. It also comes with a carrying case for like $15. And I'll leave a link in the description below if this video turns out that this actually works, so that you can go grab one for yourself. So anyway, we're going to do the first test using the front-facing cam. Right now, sun's out. It's pretty bright. Sun's in this direction, but it's pretty bright behind me. And take a look at the environment behind me. I think looking at the screen itself, everything seems to be pretty blown out, pretty washed out, because like it's just super bright in the background. And what we're going to do is I'm just going to do a quick test. I'm going to clip this on, and we're going to adjust it from its minimum, which is 2, to its maximum, which is 400, and see if it actually changes how I look, how the background looks, and whether or not it's worth it. I always shoot with the front-facing cam, so I usually have to work with the front-facing cam, and then we're going to try it on the back to see if it works with the back cameras, because the back cameras are the higher quality cameras. So I'm going to clip this on. What I realized was I got to clip this on just right, because of how this works, sometimes you can actually get the reflection from behind the lens reflecting back into the camera, and you'll see like whatever's behind me on the camera. So I can't tell right now. It doesn't look like it's there. So this is, it's on now, and this is what, like I said, the wind's blowing like crazy, but this is what the background looks. I'll step into the frame a little bit. I'll try to stay in this third. We're just going super crazy, and we're going to turn this up. We're going to dial this up to 400. So I'm going to try to do it like this so that it doesn't have my fingers in the cam. So we're dialing it up. We're dialing it up. It's adjusting. I think the clouds and everything are starting to come in. And then about right there, as you can see, somewhere right here, that cloud just became really clear to me. And it looks like to me, these trees are not as blown out as they were before. So just as a quick reference, I'm going to do that again. I'm going to dial this down a little bit again. And that's the sky with it dialed down to about midpoint. And we're going to dial this. So let's say if it's a 0 to 400, this is about at the 200 marker, maybe 250. We're going to dial it back up again until I can see that cloud covering the sky. Right about there is where I would want this to be. So right off the bat, you can tell using a variable ND filter with your cell phone camera, it's going to give you much better results. I wasn't paying attention to myself, but I can also see that these trees and the detail behind me are not super blown out. They're not super bright where it almost is blinding look at it. So like I said, now we're at about, 300. We're going to dial this all the way up to 4 and see if we get any better quality out of it. Okay, so I think I've gone too far. As you can see, it jumped from, now it's like super bright, so I guess it takes a couple of seconds for it to adjust to itself. Way blown out. Way blown out. I might have just tricked the camera to, breaking itself. But we're going to dial it again, dial it again, dial it again. And I think it's because my hand's in the frame and it probably sees me. We're at about 400 right now. I am 1 notch before the max, and definitely probably not usable. From what I can see in the screen, I can barely see my face. It's just way too dark. So it looks like at about 200 is about the best place where I want to be. And yep, and every time I put my hand in there, that's what it's doing. It's adjusting to my hand blocking the camera. So I'm gonna try it again. I'm gonna try to keep my hand out of the frame. I'm gonna get it down to right about there. I think it was about right there, maybe a little bit higher. Let's see. Nope. Let's go back a little bit. We had it. I don't know what happened to it, but we had it where the sky was not super blown out. And now I think I just goofed it up because my hand messed with the camera about right there. About right there is where the sky looks very, very clear and everything's not blown out. So yeah, so far, and up I'm about 200, 300. It works. It works. So get that on my face, sun in my face now. Yep, it works. And I also don't have it in HDR. So let's try this again using it in HDR mode. We'll have to pause the camera to put it in HDR, but we're going to fire back up and do the same test. All right, so using the high dynamic range, it actually cleaned that image up a lot. Like I can see the clouds in the sky without using the ND filter. The trees don't seem to be blown out as much. See a little bit more detail back here in the high grass. And it looks pretty clean, to be honest with you. Like I said, I've been at the range sometimes. I come back and just everything looks super blown out because it's super sunny outside. So HDR on. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to turn it all the way down to its minimum. Okay, that's about the minimum there. I'll clip that on. Try to get it on so there's no reflection from the back. Okay. So a little bit darker from what I can tell in the screen, but definitely can see a lot of detail in the clouds. Not as much so right up in this area here, and I don't know why that is. Maybe it's just from the angle that I'm looking at my cell phone screen. What we're going to do is we're going to start dialing this up, and I got to again keep my finger out of the camera when I do it, so it doesn't adjust to my fingers. And we're going to try to clean that up. Give it a little bit of time to adjust. Still super blown, super blown. I think right about there. Now I can see more detail here than I could before, and still a lot of detail coming in over there. So we are again at about 200 f-stops on the dial. I don't know. Yeah, it's about 200. It's about halfway between min and max, and it looks really, really good. And we're going to dial it all the way up to the top and see what we get if we dial it up. See that? Something just had the camera go crazy. We'll dial up a little bit more. And now it's getting really dark, and I think it's my finger going into the camera, but now it's getting really dark and it's still super windy, so I'm going to have to hold on. I don't think it's going anywhere. This tripod's pretty stable, but as you can see, it definitely helps, but me moving in and out of the frame, it's trying to keep up with me and keep everything adjusted, but the ND filter works. Looks like it actually does a little bit of adjustment to the image, so I can kind of see the clouds right here, and definitely still got the clouds right here, and still all of this looks not too blown out, and I could still, looking at the screen, even though it's super bright out here, see the detail from the high grass in the back. So yeah, it works. So now let's do the same experiment using the rear facing camera. So I'm not going to be in frame this time because I'm going to be looking through the back of the camera, but let's see how it looks facing the same direction using the back cameras. All right, so now we are using the rear cameras. Image looks way better, by the way, with the rear cameras. Like I said, it's a little bit more zoomed in than I would like on the rear cameras than on the front camera. So let's see if I can get that. Where we're at right now, we're at a 1. If I go to a 2, okay, so let's go back to 0.6. Get a lot more image into that frame. All right, so same camera test right now. Let's see. I forgot if I had HDR on or not, so I think I did. So right now, I want to pause it. I want to turn HDR off because I can't do it while the camera's running. All right, so here's your image without HDR, and I also removed the filter. I usually like to run a little bit of a warmer filter, so hopefully you're not, getting too much wind because now I'm facing the wind instead of with my back to it. Okay, so let's see if I can find out which lens this is actually shooting from. Okay, because the camera's upside down, so it's on the bottom. So I'm going to get this over the lens. All right, it's about right there. I got some fingerprints and some reflections coming up on this thing, so let's turn it this way, see if I can get a better mount. All right, it's about right there. We are now at, what are we at? We are at the, all right, let me give me a second here. That's the max. I'm going to turn it down to the min just so I can get this at its minimum. Okay, so that's the minimum. All right, everything looks really good. No HDR on at the minimum. I can see a lot of detail in the field. I can see a lot of detail in the sky, but we're gonna try to adjust this up without twisting it off the camera. I'm gonna see if it gets any better by turning this up to about the midway point that we had before. Okay, looks like I'm getting a little bit more detail in the clouds. I know my hand's in the frame, but a lot more blue, like right up in here. Looks like it, focus-wise, everything looks really good. And I am at about that midway point that I was talking about. So that's about the midway point. Like I said, a lot of blue up in here, a lot of the detail in the clouds. I'm gonna try to take it a little bit higher, see if anything changes. Okay, that's the dark spot, so I think I'm at the end, and I'm also getting a little bit of reflection right up in here, you can tell. So that's because I'm knocking the lens off the camera. So we're gonna try to get that. There you go, like there. All right, so yeah, that's at the max. All right, let's go back down. The sun's coming out, so it's definitely gonna have to adjust to it. At the max, it looks like it keeps it really clean with the sun out. And then behind the clouds, I probably had to dial it down a couple f-stops. So we're gonna dial it all the way back down. Look at that, it's getting brighter and brighter. We're gonna dial it down to its minimum again. I'm dialing down slow just in case so you can see, and stopping so you can see any changes in the color. Like I said, this wind is going crazy, folks. I don't know why I chose to shoot the video at this time, but got to get the video done. And right about there is the minimum. So let's do the same experiment, this time using the HDR feature. All right, so quick reference, HDR is now on. This is what it looks like in HDR mode without the ND filter. We're gonna go to HDR with the ND filter. All right, to try to defeat this wind, I'm kind of got my back to it, so hopefully it ain't too windy. But yeah, here's HDR with the ND filter. And what I wanna do is I'm gonna turn it up, and I'm gonna start, cranking it up and see if I can see any detail changes. Looks a little bit dark right now for me through the screen. I don't know why. It's still at the minimum. So, but as you can see, still a lot of detail in the sky, like a lot of blue here. So we're at the minimum. We're going to turn this up a little bit. And what happens is, if you guys don't know, when you use an ND filter, it's like using glasses. It allows your camera shutter to open up wider and get more detail in, because it doesn't have to close down for the brightness of the sun. So as I start to get darker on this, what you should start to see is a better image coming from the camera, right? So more detail in the sky, more detail in the grass, more detail in the trees. The camera on this is probably really good to start with, but again, with the ND filter, you probably can get a little bit more out of it. So we're going to start dialing that up. And I am at, I don't know, maybe about half right now. I can't tell because it's behind the camera, and I'm really having a hard time seeing it. But I think the sky's starting to look a little bit better, like right now, where it's at. Thought I saw a little bit more detail coming in the sky. Not really paying attention to the trees. I'm trying to see what I can see through the camera frame. I'm gonna have to see this first time when I post it after editing, just like you guys. I'm gonna turn it a little bit more. We're gonna go a little bit higher. My hand's in the frame, sorry. And right there, it looks like I got a lot more detail. I can see a lot more striation in the clouds, and that cloud looks super detailed to me. Don't even know where it is, to be honest with you, because I don't even, oh, it's right there. Okay, there it is. Looks super detailed to me. Let's take it all the way up, see where it goes. Again, I'm getting a little bit of reflection right here in the camera, because the camera could see the reflection from behind. I'm trying to block that. See, now I can block it. You can kind of see there. So let's move that out of the way, move it in a little bit more. Try to get that out of there. There you go. All right, now we're gonna go as maximum to the maximum. And as you can see, it's getting really dark, but it's adjusting when I stop it. So that's the maximum. And I'm probably in between transitions right now, so you got this little shadow in there. That's about the maximum right there. And detail looks really, really good. Very clean grass in the background. I can see the leaves, and I'm just looking through the screen. I think I got on its highest definition. Yeah, everything looks really, really good here. What's this button do, by the way? Let me see. Oh, it gives me the ability to zoom with a slider. All right, had to check that out. All right, so there you go. We're back at the maximum wide angle. That is max detail. And that is the experiment. Like I was saying, I don't have the ND filter on right now. Facing the camera facing me. Let's see. That's me with a white background. It's super dark, so it's getting a reflection from the camera now. So let's turn that down a little bit. And this wind is crazy, crazy. So yeah, that's me, white background, overcast. a little bit better. I think it works. So like I said, just wanted to see if I got better results using an ND filter on my camera. I think I want to look around for maybe an ND filter that's either a little bit smaller so I don't get that reflection point in the background, because this is a 62 millimeter ND filter. I was trying to get something that covered all 3 cameras on the rear, but I think since I use the front facing camera the majority of the time for filming my video, I'm going to find one that's like literally like 32 millimeters or something like that, and just get it to cover that first front facing camera so I don't have, you know, all this blown out, you know, or actually all the reflection coming from behind the camera and reflecting off the lens back into the camera. But that's the experiment. If you're interested in one of these ND filters, again, you can definitely look around on Amazon. If you're interested in this one, which is a 62 millimeter, I will leave a link in the description below. Thanks for watching. Talk to you later.